and we will be doing addition of fractions, and let's get into this one. Let's say we have a 2 over 5 and that's plus 1 over 5. When adding fractions, and the fractions where the denominators are the same, your answer will have the same denominator. This is what we call a common denominator. The common denominator is 5, your answer is going to have 5. And then in the numerator, it's just regular 2 plus 1. And that's going to be equal to 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. So it's really straightforward. If we have a 3 over 7 plus 2 over 7, we have a common denominator of 7, so I know my answer is going to be 7 in the denominator. And then we have a pretty much a 3 plus the 2, 5. Yeah, no matter what, we can have a 9 over 25 plus a 2 over 25. It doesn't matter. Our answer would be 25 down here. And then a 9 plus a 2 is going to equal 11. So it's straightforward once we have the denominators, common denominator. They're the same. Same number, so it's the same number. Same number, so it's the same number. Common denominator. Addition of fractions. But sometimes it's not so pretty, because we can have when the denominators are different. So I have this uncommon denominator, and so I'm going to have to be doing a little multiplying of these denominators and numerators to get a common denominator. And the way we do it is this. I can say to myself, I need to multiply this 3 by something. And I need to multiply this 4 by something. And I can think of, I say to myself, okay, I think 12. 12 could be a number in which that would be the least common denominator. There could be other common denominators that are greater than 12. For example, another common denominator we could have is 24. 24 is another common number between these two. 3 times 8 is 24, and 4 times 6 is 24. But we want to find the lowest number that's common among them. So pretty much this is how I would do it. I would say, okay, I would say 12, put a plus, 12. This is going to be my new fractions. 12 is going to be the common denominator. And then I say to myself, okay, how did I go from 3 to 12? Well, I had to multiply 3 times 4 to get this 12, right? I had to do pretty much 3 times 4 to get this down here. And because I multiply this by 4, I have to multiply this by 4. That's just the rule. So it's going to be 4 times 2, or 2 times 4 is going to be 8. Now what I do over here, I have to do here. Here's the 4. How do I get from this 4 to 12? Well, I know this 4 was multiplied by 3 to get this 12. So that means this numerator has to be multiplied by 3. And 3 times 1 is 3. So here is our here is our new problem, but it's the same thing. It's just rewritten differently with a common denominator. So now we can go ahead and say 812 plus 312 is equal to 1112. A little side thing. I just do a little quick quick thing. You know, one can say, oh, okay, 24. And then someone can say, hey, okay, how do I go from 3 to 24? Well, I know 3. They can say, I know 3 times 8 is 24, so that means this is going to have to be times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. And then 4, do that. Put this here. Someone can say, well, 4 times, okay, what times 4 will give me 24? They said 4 times 6, and then, okay, so I'm going to have to multiply this by 6. 6 times 1 is 6. So one can do it like this, but there's a much more simpler way down here. Because once we evaluate this, then we're gonna have to reduce even further. We're gonna get an answer, right? We're gonna get 24 is a common denominator, and then we're gonna have 16 plus 6 is gonna be 22. And then, oh, we're gonna have to further reduce it down, and then we realize that, if I divide this by 2 is 11, if I divide this by 2 is 12. So we got the same answer as this. So, 24 is a common denominator, but there is a lower common denominator of 12. This is the lowest common denominator of 3 and 4. So, that's just something you have to just keep note of. Keep in mind. So now I'm going to say to myself, okay, what's the least common denominator? What's the lowest number that they have in common, right? So most likely I'm looking at 5. I know there's 5, 10, 15, 20. I think it's going to be 20, right? So it's going to be 20. So it has to be 20. There's no other lower number that these two have in common, right? Because 4, yeah, it's going to be 4 or 5, 20. So then I say to myself, okay, how did I go from this 5 to 20? Well, I had to multiply by 4. Right? So, because I multiply that by 4, I have to multiply that by 4. So 4 times 1 is 4. How did I go from this 4 to 20? I had to multiply the 4 by 5. And because I had to multiply this denominator by 5 to keep equality, to keep this mathematically correct, I have to multiply the numerator by 5 also, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have a nice common denominator going on. And now we can solve this. And this is going to be 19 over 20. Can't reduce anything or anything, so that's the answer. And that's addition of fractions. Okay, we're looking at this fraction. We have a common denominator, right? So that means we can start adding because we have a common denominator. Now, since we're adding, we are going to look into the rules of adding sign numbers. And remember, when we're adding sign numbers, if we're adding opposite signs, where this is a positive 1 over 7, and then this is a negative 9 over 7, this whole fraction's negative. Because this negative, The whole fraction is negative and this whole fraction is positive. Remember, the rule is we find the difference between them, and the sign of the answer is the sign of the greater quantity, right? So 9/7 is greater, it's a bigger quantity than 1/7, right? So the answer is going to be a negative because we have a negative 9/7, and the 9/7 is bigger than 1/7. And then what's the difference between them? Now I'm going to write on the side, right? So this is the difference between them, right? So you're going to look at it like this. I have a 9/7, and I'm taking away 1/7, right? I have 9/7 and I'm taking 1/7 out of it. I'm going to end up having 8/7, right? 8/7. 9/7. It's almost like you have a 9 of something and I'm taking 1 of something. So I'm going to have 8 of that thing, right? So the answer is 8/7. On to another example, a not so pretty example. We're going to have 1/3 plus 2/5, and that's negative. So can we do any addition? No, we can't, because we have uncommon denominators. So that's the first thing we're going to have to do, is to get them into a common denominator, and then we can apply our addition rule of signed numbers, especially signed numbers that are uncommon. They're not the same sign. You have negative and positive. But before we even touch that, we're going to have to get a common denominator. And just looking at this 3 and 5, the lowest common denominator I can see is a 15. Right? So I'm going to rewrite these fractions with a common denominator 15. And so now I'm going to say to myself, what do I multiply this 3 by to get this 15, right? So I know 3 times 5 is 15, but if I multiply down here by 5, I have to multiply up here by 5. So this is our new fraction. Here's our plus sign. This 5, how do I get from this 5 to 15? Multiply by 3, right? So it is 3. So then I have to multiply this also by 3, right? So that's how we got this 15, and then 3 times that 2 up there is going to be 6. And remember that thing is negative. So here are our new fractions. We have 5/15 plus a negative 6/15. Now we can add. And so now we say to ourselves, okay, what's the addition rules of fractions, or not even just fractions, but addition rules, because we already um, done what we needed to do in terms of fractions. And the only thing we need to do was to pretty much get a common denominator. We already did that. Now we're saying to ourselves, okay, now we step back and look at it as an addition of unlike signs. And now what's the rule of that? The rule is the answer will be the same sign of the larger number, that larger quantity. And in this case, 6/15 is bigger than 5, or larger than 5/16. So, and it has this negative sign beside the 6. I know my answer is going to be a negative. So remember, that determines the sign, and then I have to find the difference between them, and then that's going to be my answer. So 6/15, pretty much difference between 6/15 and 5/16, which is basically a 6/15 minus 5/16 is a 1/15, and that's the answer. All right, let's go on. I'm going to do two more because it's very important to understand this. Very, very important. Here we have a negative 1/3, or negative 1/3, plus a negative 7/5. So now I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, hey, I can't even do anything, right? I have to get this in addition, get this addition ready first, and then I can start looking at what the signs are telling me. Um, so again, here's a 3 and a 5. 15 is going to be a common denominator. And 3 times 5 gives me 15, right? To go from this 3 to this 15, I have to multiply by 5, so that means I have to multiply this by 5. So they're going to have 5 there, because it's 5 times 1. This 5, to get from this 5 to this 15, I have to multiply this 5 by 3. That means I'm going to have to multiply this by 3, the 7. And 7 times 3 is 21. And remember, that was negative. Now we're ready to add, and now we're going to be considering the addition rules of sign numbers. They're the same sign, so that means the answer is going to be that same sign. And then we just add them straightforward because our denominators are the same. Add them straightforward. Add them straightforward. 21 plus the 5 is pretty much going to be a 26. 15. And I'll do one more example. Here we have a negative 6 plus a negative 7/3. You know, these do not look pretty. What does that equal to? Well, we can't do anything. Right now, we have to, because we have this whole number plus this fraction. Right, so let's get them into fractions with common denominators. Now, looking at this, I know every whole number is pretty much that number over 1. So I can re-look at it like this. And then I can say to myself, okay, what common denominator I can get out of this, right? I think I can get a 3, right? That's the lowest common denominator I can get. I can get a 3 here and a 3. How? This 1 times 3 is going to give me this 3. So that means up here has to be multiplied by 3 also. So 3 times 6 is 18. That's still that negative. Still, they got that plus sign. And over here, this is already 3. Here's 3 here, so we're not touching anything. We're not doing anything. So that's set, and pretty much just write this whole thing because we're not moving that. We're not changing anything there. Now we're ready to just add, and we're adding signed. Okay, let me write this as a 7. We're adding two signs, things that are the same signs, or two numbers that are the same sign. So the answer is going to be that same sign. It's going to be negative. And then, you know, well, we have an 18 plus a 7. That's going to be 25. And common denominator of 3, and that's the answer. So that is all. Just keep practicing, and I may make more examples with this because really I've seen people struggle with this, and that's all for now. Okay, bye.